It was all good just a couple days ago for Team Canada at the FIBA World Cup, but things have changed as the Canadians fall 69-65 to Brazil in their first second-round matchup this morning. Justin Pooni, Noor Zainab. Noor, not what we all expected waking up on a Friday morning. We thought Canada was going to win, cruise after the shocking results that we're going to get to in a little bit from the earlier games today. But Canada could not take care of business. They were outscored 24-13 in the fourth quarter, and they blew a 9-point lead and lost. Noor, Canada is, of course, now sets up a must-win game against Spain, as we see in on Sunday morning. What was your biggest takeaway from this game?
Well, look at the point differential here just for 1 second. They're at the top, sitting at 107 points. The next team up is 63 in Spain. So for Brazil to do that and limit Canada to 65 points this game means, let's give credit to Brazil. They brought their A game. They were tough. They were tall. They were athletic. And they didn't care for an answer that Canada had. Every time Canada looked like they might strike back, Brazil stopped them dead in their tracks. And did it help that Canada was kind of cold on the perimeter as well? Not really. We mentioned it last game too. We're relying on Nickeil Alexander-Walker here to kind of carry that burden on the perimeter and showcase those three-pointers. This game, unfortunately, it was not there at all. He was 12.5% from three. He had 1 3 going out of 8. It wasn't great, especially from the field as well. He was 1 of 9. From 2 points, he was 0 of 1. He didn't really even try in the field. He was just at the perimeter, but it just seemed like it was a cold night for him. On top of that, too, you saw Lou Dort. He came back from being away after the past 2 games, defensively and offensively. He was the only guy that really helped Shai out there, which Shai had 23 points. Lou Dort had 17 points there. But after that, it was a big drop off after Shai and Lou Dort there. We were relying on Kelly Olynyk to be that guy that he has been the past couple of games, but I think he was just making some bad moves today. Same thing with Dylan Brooks, who has just been letting himself get in foul trouble game after game. And it kind of starts in the first half. So you kind of see himself building into this aggressiveness, and he sees that he's catching these fouls even before halftime. And when you're coming back from halftime and you have about 3 or 4 fouls to your name, you're not about to have an aggressive half after that. You're going to take it very easy.
It changes the perception how you play the game, because remember, FIBA, it's only 5 fouls and you're out. Head coach
Dwight Powell too.
Yeah, Dwight Powell as well. Head coach Jordi Fernandez kind of highlighted everything you just said. He said post-game, Shai has to score the ball and play make. He didn't. And I can go down the line. Kelly has to play make, rebound, and score efficiently. He didn't. RJ has to run the floor and score efficiently and defend, and he didn't. He then went on to say that I love the guys that I work with. I trust that we're going to watch it, own it, give our opinions, move on, and be ready for the next game. Canada's lack of shooting showcased really glaringly today. Yeah. You mentioned all the stats about the guys that had tough shoot nights: Nickeil Alexander-Walker, RJ Barrett. Brazil didn't shoot the ball that much better, but what I think the biggest thing is Brazil slowed the game down. Brazil played at their pace, their style of game. They was busy in the paint. It was very crowded in the paint, and we mentioned this whole game when we were watching it, right? Canada was just undersized the whole time, and every important offensive rebound going down the stretch, Canada could never get it, and I think they couldn't also get stops. Iago Santos was. Nobody heard about him at all from the first half and most of the third quarter. But later on in the game, what you see? Nobody could stop him. He got those 2 big late buckets where they were switching everything. They would get him on Dylan Brooks or Lou Dort, and he was just too fast and go right by him to the paint. Right?
And I want to say, even when he was quiet, he wasn't really quiet helping his teammates around. He has 10 assists all game.
He found a way to be effective.
He was making sure that the ball was moving. He was putting it in the right hands. Bruno Caboclo, the second he sees a North American team, he's just like, it's time for revenge. I'm coming for you. And he did that. Of course. Well, yes, but that's where he's at, and that's why I'm saying you have to give credit to Brazil, because they knew that they weren't going to be able to maybe replicate the offense that Canada can have, but they understood the assignment for them had to be defense, and boy, did they make that defensive effort there. As you mentioned as well, the paint was a problem. I think that's the only issue I have with Jordi Fernandez there. He had a great quote, and he held those guys responsible for what they did, but unfortunately, I didn't see those adjustments the way that they should have been made as well. I understand that you had your big guys a lot in foul trouble, but don't go small. Go bigger. Yeah. If you're watching that you're being absolutely dominated in the paint and they're getting every single defensive rebound, make the adjustment to have someone tall come in and just kind of, be authoritative in the paint. We didn't really see that. You saw them just bounce around, kind of lose their focus in that paint. And once you see that the other team got the ball, they were almost lost in disarray. Didn't really know where to go, didn't know where their guy was. And that's where those shots were coming for Brazil. Those second opportunity shots for Brazil were massive. Yep. And again, I don't want to point anything away from Brazil. I think they did fantastic. Canada, though, I think offensively, this was just a small game. Someone did mention last time that we haven't talked too much about RJ Barrett. I think we thought we had, but maybe we just hadn't really mentioned him too much. The only issue there is, I think our last question about when we were on last was about who we think has really caught our attention. And we always kind of navigated with RJ Barrett to think that today. Because, can I please finish?
Okay, go.
With RJ Barrett, it's been that he's not going to. We knew what he came to every single game with. It wasn't that he caught our attention. It was just this is who he is. But unfortunately, he hasn't exactly been a massive offensive effort for this team. After last game, though, do give him a shout out against Latvia. He came with 22 points. He was the second guy next to Shai, but today he had 1 point pretty much all game, and that came from a free throw. The other one that he missed, he did make a late three at the end of that game, but at that point, the game was pretty much out of Canada's hand, and he finished with 4 points. But we are going to need a lot of second chance, a lot of second shot making, playmaking outside of Shai. And if we know Shai is capable of whatever he can do. He can make those points. He can get those assists going. You've seen what he's done with OKC, averaged 30 points last year, brought them above the Dallas Mavericks in the standings, but he's going to need help. He's going to need some guys around him. And this is a new team. I'm sure he wants to take charge, but he understands that there's guys around him who also want the ball. But I would just need to see a way more valiant, aggressive, and just more offensive effort against Spain coming up on Sunday, because as you mentioned, that's a do or die game. If your game's not going to be there, then get ready for a flight back home to Canada, boys.
Well, we talked about it before, how balanced Canada's attack has been, how many players have been in double digits. Today, there was 2 guys in double digits.
Yeah.
Shai and Lou Dort. That is not acceptable. This team, you mentioned RJ Barrett. RJ Barrett is a guy who can average 20 points in the NBA. But he's been so inconsistent in terms of 5 points against France, 4 points against Brazil, had 15 against Lebanon, 22 against Latvia. RJ Barrett, like the NBA, like he's in the NBA, needs to be more consistent. Yeah. This is how Team Canada is going to win. We talked enough about their talent, but it's time for them to learn how to win as a team. They were up 9 points going into the fourth quarter, right? That's the time where you lock in and you build on the lead. But what happened? They were up by 12. Brazil got the last second three-pointer, right, at the end of the third quarter buzzer. Cut it to 9, and I kind of thought in my head, I'm like, oh boy, this is kind of a momentum swinger right here, and it was, because Brazil came out from the fourth quarter and dominated. They shut the water off for Canada. Canada's offense did not look fluid. It looked stagnant. They couldn't get proper stops on defense.
They just weren't getting the shots in. The shots just were not connecting. They were finding the open guy. You would see RJ, you would see Shai kind of bring in the defense of Brazil and pass it out to the perimeter, and you'll find Nickeil Alexander-Walker there. You'll see Kelly Olynyk there, but those shots would just not go in, and I guess it's a shooter's game, right?
Yeah.
Either the shot goes in or it doesn't. You just gotta hope that next game the shots do go in.
Canada, like you did mention, shot 33% from the field, 26.7% from three-point range. Now that forces a game on Sunday morning at 9:30 against Spain, the defending FIBA World Cup champions, who lost shockingly to Latvia this morning.
Yeah, what an upset that was.
Canada. When I look at this right now, Canada, you look at the group standings, right? Everybody's 3-1. Spain, of course, we mentioned the point differential, but there's now 2 do or die games. Brazil, Latvia, Canada, Spain. The winners of both those games will move on to the quarterfinals. This is very dangerous, and I'm very scared for Canada because you know why? Spain lost to Latvia.
Yeah.
And this Spanish side, They're a very proud nation. They're going to be fired up. They're going to want, just like Canada, want to prove and get back on the winning track. So I am very worried if I'm Team Canada. I understand that we have the NBA talent, but this is a power in Spain that you have not seen the likes of. That's why this game was so important that you take care of business, because had they won this game, they could have afforded a loss to Spain and probably still qualified.
Yeah.
But now they have to beat Spain. And talk about all you want about how this is Canada basketball can never do it, take the easy route. Well, this is not going to be the easy route, Noor. They're going to have to go against Spain, and they're gonna have to, it's gonna be just like this. Spain's not gonna let Canada play their game. They're gonna have a game plan in place. What do you think Canada has to do, or what does Jordi Fernandez need to do to get this team ready to go Sunday?
It's going to be the Sergio Scariolo and Jordi Fernandez show.
The
ex Raptors coaches nominees that were in the run.
Sergio actually coached for the Raptors.
Okay,
Jordi.
but in the nomination for head coach, don't get technical on me. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
That's what it's going to be. You're gonna see Hernan Gomez go up against his former team in Toronto. I am worried about the coaching here. I think the coaching is going to need to be up to par. We know Sergio Scariolo. He is a champion in Spain, a champion in Europe. He understands what the sport is about, and he's the king of adjustment. He understands offense better than anybody else does. If you saw Raptors in their offense under Sergio Scariolo, you know what to expect. He just understands where to put the guys in the right spots, and he makes that offense flow. He gives the ball to guys that will make sure that the people around him will be open, the ball will flow, and we will get that bucket in. So for for Team Canada, I want to make sure that our offense is up to par. We know what Shai can do. Shai is not the issue here. I'm not worried about Shai. I'm worried about every single person outside of Shai. I do want to say I'll give Canada a little bit of leeway here. I know they probably just don't deserve it, but Lou Dort coming back in the lineup, maybe it changed a few things there.
I don't think that's an excuse.
I understand that it might not be, but I'm just saying it's still a new team. They're still learning each other. They're learning where the other guys are. The chemistry is still it's not done yet. It's still being done. It's still creating itself. So when you're plug in a guy where 2 games you just had without him and you're learning the flow of things, you're dominating opponents by a number of points. So to plug that back in, I wonder if that's a little bit of a problem, but again, you're right. Not an excuse.
There's no excuses because
at the same time,
they have to win on Sunday.
Lou Dort did amazing. He's 17 points. His defensive game was fantastic. He did everything on that court. I mean, Shai as well, when that block on Caboclo was fantastic. But I want to see offense. I want to see their defense locked in. I think defense can stay locked in, no problem. But I want to see offense, because once they play offense, they decide the pace of this game. They decide how they want to play. Jordi Fernandez came from the Kings. Kings play a very fast-paced basketball. It goes fast. Before you even know what's happening, the ball's in the bucket. So we need to see Canada set the tempo the second the game begins, and them to call the shots. Don't let Spain have a second of comfort. Don't let them dictate anything. Just kind of take the ball out of their hand and make them play for it. Kind of set the tone in the beginning, because I know we're not really used to that. They kind of turned their tempo up in the third quarter, and I thought that was going to be the case today too. I was wrong, but I'm hoping that Sunday is that game where they play a fantastic game from beginning to end, because as you said, if they don't, you're coming back home, boys.
Well, Vegas currently has Canada as a 6.5 point favorite, which I think is kind of way too much, because
they had them as 19.5 point favorites against Brazil today.
Exactly. I think what Vegas doesn't understand is the FIBA game is totally different than the NBA game.
I think they're just noticing the point differential, and they're going, well, if they won by this much,
but they played against a France squad that didn't live up to expectations at all.
Okay, but still.
A Latvia side that looks good, right? But then they destroyed Latvia.
Away from
what I'm saying, the group stage is great, but that doesn't matter anymore. That's irrelevant. That's in the past now. It's time to look forward to what's next. And what's next is the defending FIBA World Cup champions in a must-win game to go to the next round, to go to the quarterfinals. That is what's at hand of Canada.
And you're right.
Chemistry,
Spain,
all of that stuff, whatever. You have 48 hours, or in and around however many hours it is to the next game. A lot of soul-searching has to happen now. All right, you are getting all this praise, all this stuff since the tournament started, how great you playing, how this is a new Canada. Okay, well, you have adversity now. How are you going to react to that adversity? Are you going to come back out and fight, or are you going to do what Canadian teams have done in the past, turtle and go away and go home? Right? Is this
motivated?
Is this the new Canada? Is this it? Well, prove it to us. Prove it to the nation on Sunday morning, right? Because that, like I said before, the time is now, right? We saw what happened. Puerto Rico came back against the Dominican and won, right? So when we're looking at
Latvia. Latvia lost to Canada, came into this. They had to win both games to be able to
showed
qualify,
up.
and they just won against Spain.
So, and here's the other thing.
But that's also where I think you're right, because Spain's going to come out and they're not going to be in the comfort position anymore. They're not going to be in the driver's seat because they know that this game is do or die as well.
They're desperate.
They're
both
going
desperate.
to be completely locked in. This is the defending champion. So this is probably going to be the hardest game you played, maybe even if you go past this tournament.
So if Canada does make it past, they're probably going to have to play either Germany or Slovenia. Both teams are undefeated right now. Of course, Luka Doncic and Serbia, you know what he is. Everybody knows how great he is, how dominant he is. Then with Germany, you know the German side is got littered with NBA talent as well.
And
of course,
Dennis Schroeder.
But I want to touch about this quickly. So, of course, I mentioned Puerto Rico came back and beat the Dominican Republic in Group I action. Though both those teams are part of the Americas, right? And Canada, of course, is one of the America teams that are trying to qualify as well for the Olympics. And, of course, the top two teams from the Americas qualify for Paris. We know the U.S., they're 4-0. They're going to be in the next round. I think we expect the U.S. will be there when it matters most. So one of those spots is already crossed off. If I'm Canada, obviously I have to take care of business here. But also I'm hoping that both Puerto Rico and Dominican lose on Sunday as well, and Serbia and Italy do you guys a favor, because just like the Canada group, all four of those teams in Group I are all 3-1 as well. So that's a big factor in this as well. That is going to be interesting. But again, Canada can't worry about that too much or at all. Focus on beating Spain. That is the only thing that matters.
Right now, the guy in front of you is going to be Juancho Hernan-Gomez. You need to stop him. I know it's just a little bit comical. I get that, but the problem with him is he's doing well right now. He's averaging. I think he had 16, 17 points last game against Latvia. But
His brother Willie Hernan-Gomez is averaging 17.
Yeah. Well, the family is coming together, coached by Sergio Scariolo. They are the defending champions. They did lose to Latvia, so unfortunately for Canada, they're looking red. They're looking at red. They got red in their heart, red in their mind, and they want that championship. And they have to go through red to get there, which is Canada, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the Spanish side, again, I said it with France, I'll say with all these FIBA nations, because you mentioned chemistry earlier. These guys have been playing together for years. Right? No matter if they play in the NBA or whatever, they all grew up in the same national team system together. They know how to play with one another. Spain, like you mentioned, well coached. They will be ready to play. Will Canada be ready to play? Will this squad that you mentioned has just been kind of put together? They're trying to figure each other out. The new coach, of course, Jordi Fernandez just joined on. Can they be ready? Will they be ready? And that's the $1 million question, I think. And I think that to me is going to be the most interesting thing.
I think you're right. The one thing I like that you said, was that this was the adversity they needed to check out how they can come back together.
They didn't need it.
Well,
I mean, had they taken care of business today, they could have,
Sometimes when you're feeling very good about yourself, you need a little bit of a challenge to put you back in your place.
To win, you have to go through
change your
adversity
perspective, your perception, and for you to realize that you're not as invincible as you might think you are, and to get your head back on track, screwed on right. Because, like we said, for the 100th time, you're playing the defending champions on Sunday. Do I still think they can take it? I will say yes.
Okay, so you're taking Canada.
I'm taking Canada. I think we can still take it. It's going to be tough. It's going to be rough. I'm going to be up early on a Sunday, more than I'd like to be. But I think this is a spot where they can do this. The only issue is I do understand that Spain has that offensive talent. We saw last game they had 3 guys in double digits. You got Brizuela, you got Hernan Gomez, you had Garuba. All these guys, 11, 14, 11. And it was still a pretty joint effort. And they came out and unfortunately lost to Latvia, but by only 5 points.
Yeah.
Still kept it close.
Look, it's going to be epic on Sunday. You're going to stick with Canada. As a Canadian, I'm going to stick with Canada too. But
I kind of killed you.
I'm very worried. I'm very worried. That's just who I am. But Sunday will be the day, Judgment Day for Team Canada at the FIBA World Cup. Will they move on to the quarterfinals or will they be sent home packing? You're going to have to wake up early on a Sunday morning to find out. But you can bet on Monday. We will be back here with Hoop Talks to break down whatever happens.
Monday's a holiday, so maybe
Monday's a holiday.
Wednesday, yeah.
Wednesday we'll be back.
Enjoy your long weekend. Hopefully we have a nice Monday celebrating Canada, getting into the, moving on in that World Cup. Maybe a little, we might even have a little bit of time for a little small parade getting ready for the big parade if Team Canada wins the whole thing on Monday, Labor Day.
There's no parade. No.
I would do a parade if they won against Spain.
Okay.
I'll take that as a
no,
parade.
There's no parade. Anyway,
I will.
We'll be back next week to talk more Canada basketball and break down the FIBA World Cup here on Hoop Talks.